is the birth rate going down? Why aren't any of these young people having sex? Maybe it's because we're getting fucked every day. I don't know what you're talking about. My sex life is pretty healthy. I'm getting fucked by the government every day, my job, the job economy, the economy in general, inflation, the landlords, the insurance companies, the banks, the billionaires. They're all just having their way with me every single day, fucking gangbanging me crazy style. And then you want to know why I'm not fucking? I'm all fucked out. How about that? I don't have the passion, drive, or wherewithal to put a baby in you, not even practice.
America wants babies, but they refuse to create a life in which it's okay to bring a baby into. So the experts say by 2030, more people will be dying in America than will be born. Everybody's all confused, and I'm like, I don't know why you confused. Of course, more people are dying than are being born. We don't have health care. We don't even have real food. We don't have clean water everywhere. And we work people like rented mules until their bodies snap. America treats working people like disposable batteries. Run them till they die, then act shocked when nobody's left to replace them. See, people are stressed about money every single day. Rent, grocery, insurance, jobs that don't pay enough, but demand everything. That kind of stress don't just age you. It's going to shorten your life. And then they'll turn around and say, why y'all not having babies? Because who's bringing a baby into a system that feels like slow motion punishment? If America wanted more babies, it would be family friendly. Affordable health care, affordable housing, affordable food, a peace of mind. But see, rich folks don't actually want families. They want labor. They want a steady supply of low-wage workers. And now that pipeline is breaking. Their kids ain't planning to do the work. And AI cannot replace everybody. And now, suddenly, population decline is the problem. So I'm going to ask, are you guys having kids? And if you're not having children, what made you decide to not have kids? Because I already know it's not just one single thing.
Ever wonder why billionaires like Elon Musk are freaking out about the declining birth rate, even though AI is set to replace most jobs in the future? Let's talk about the real reason and why this declining birth rate is actually good for regular people. The elites and the billionaires say it's about saving civilization, but here's what it's really about. More people means more consumers. More workers means cheaper labor. Bigger populations mean more national power. Low birth rate, that threatens their profits and influence. But for us, raising a kid in this economy with insane housing prices, disappearing jobs, no safety net, rising costs of childcare, rising costs of healthcare, it can feel like a financial suicide mission. If AI is taking all the jobs, why would we make more humans to struggle in this world without an ability to support themselves financially? But here's the twist. Fewer people plus AI could actually mean cheaper housing, less competition for resources, higher wages for jobs that do need humans, a lighter environmental footprint, less pollution, less strain on the planet, even universal basic income, if we demand it. So the real threat isn't fewer babies. It's billionaires hoarding all the benefits. If we share the gains from AI, a smaller population could mean a better life for all of us. It has nothing to do with families. It has nothing to do with family values or Christian ideas. It's all about billionaires making more money off of the backs of a huge workforce and a huge base of consumers to buy their products. They know that if we stop having babies, their way of life comes to a grinding halt.
I'm a Gen Zer, so I'm in college right now in Pennsylvania. A little nervous talking to the richest man in the world, but I have a quick financial question, actually. Like, you're the richest man in the world, you're the best person to talk to. So I want to start a family in the next coming years. I'm a Christian man, and that's something I want to do.
Great.
But obviously with this, with our country's financial state right now, it's really hard to get a house, let alone pay my student loans. So I know the average age of getting a house right now is like 34. So what advice would you give to Gen Zers and younger people trying to build a family, trying to start a family and get a house? What advice would you have for that? And then I guess I can
answer that question if you'd like.
Oh, yeah. You got it.
I mean, my recommendation really would be do not delay having a family. Even if things are tough, it's really like there's a baby crisis. The birth rate has plummeted. The birth rate in the United States has been below replacement rate since roughly when I was born in 1971. So that's a long time, and it's continued to decline every year. So I think if there's no humans means no humanity. So something's got to happen to turn around this crazy low birth rate, or we'll simply disappear. I think even if things are financially difficult, it's still, go for it with regard to a family. And then regarding housing costs, I think the thing that's driving up housing costs is the crazy overregulation. It's like so hard to build new houses, and to meet all these regulations, the regulations stifle new housing creation.
So birth rates had declined, and baby, they gonna keep on declining because it's fuck them kids. It's fuck them kids. You could not pay me to have, let alone carry, a child and then raise said child for the rest of my damn natural life. I can't even raise myself. You're lucky if I fucking turn my alarm off on time to make it to fucking work. You think I want to raise a child in this economy? Bitch, you might as well wrap that shit up and call it a fucking day. You might as well just... You couldn't pay me to have a kid. You couldn't pay me. And then the people that I see having children, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I literally feel sick for them. I feel sick for them. Because there's no way that you look at what's going on in this world and you think that it's the time now to have a child. Let's not even get into the fact of like the child, but it's like you have to go like healthcare, the price, the cost. I saw this girl post her fucking hospital bill from having her baby. Bitch, I can't even handle my fucking credit card debt. You think I'm about to deal with fucking medical debt on top of that shit? Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Wrap it up. Call it a day. Call it a day. If I could find a doctor to fucking tie my tubes and honestly take my whole entire uterus out, I would find one right now and do that shit. And it's so funny to me because I always get boomers at my job that are like, oh, when are you going to have kids? Kids. I got cats. And they're like, oh, you're young. No, baby, I'm smart. My mind's not going to change. I'm smart, okay? Absolutely not. I barely sometimes have 2 fucking quarters to rub together to get a goddamn cart at Aldi. You think I'm going to have a child? A human? A being that needs to breathe? And relies on me? 21st... Girl, bye.
Leftist women celebrating the dropping birth rate has nothing to do with dunking on moms, and I just want to make sure you guys understand that. The declining birth rate is a win for bodily autonomy. It's a win for women who are choosing either not to have kids or choosing to delay having kids, which are 2 of the reasons why the US birth rate has fallen. Being happy about a low birth rate is not dunking on moms. But you know what is dunking on moms and what's really shitty for moms is the lack of social care that we give mothers in America. Childcare is astronomical. The maternal mortality rate is not great for a developed country. There is no federal paid maternity or paternity leave. Wages are stagnant and many people can't afford houses big enough to have multiple children. And then there's social aspects to it as well, right? We expect moms to be able to do it all. We expect them to be able to go to work full time and then come home and then take care of their children. If they spend too much time at work, they're not good mothers. But if they stay at home, it's not good enough either. We demonize stay-at-home moms. We demonize working moms. We make it hard for all types of moms. So until we make this country better for moms and for babies and for people to raise children, I think it's good that the birth rate is declining because that is showing that women are still having the choice to either delay or forego motherhood if they so choose.
AI, I need you to bring the heat and go full feminist rage mode. Why is the birth rate really declining? Tell us the truth. even if it's harsh.
Oh, you want the real reason? Buckle up. The birth rate is declining because women finally said hell no to being unpaid incubators in a rigged system. For centuries, women were cornered, trapped into motherhood by economic dependence, lack of education, religious manipulation, and straight up coercion. But now we've got degrees, bank accounts, Plan B, and voices that won't shut up. We're watching our moms and grandmas burn out, broken bodies, lost dreams, doing emotional labor no one paid them for, and we're saying, nah, not like that. We see how capitalism leeches off motherhood while offering no real support, no paid leave, no free healthcare, no childcare, and still expects us to pop out babies while smiling through postpartum depression and a wage gap. And let's not forget, men aren't stepping up.
No.
Modern women are asking, do I want a baby or do I want to raise a grown man who thinks wiping the counter counts as helping? The math ain't mathing. Add in climate collapse, war, housing costs, mass shootings, AI anxiety, and you start to wonder, why bring a child into this mess? So yeah, the birth rate is declining because women got wise to the scam. We woke up. We're not here to breed for broken systems anymore. We're rewriting the rules, and if that makes the patriarchy sweat, good.
You're talking about the birth rates are down, well, they panicking or whatever the hell. What did you expect? Y'all are letting women die. No exaggeration. And y'all are only pro-life until the baby gets here. Y'all like, it don't matter if you can't afford the kid. It don't matter if you took all these different precautions. If you had whatchamacallit and you end up pregnant, no matter where you are in your life, you're having that motherfucker. Pregnancy scares have been a real thing forever now. But now it's like, a pregnancy scare is like, damn, you can't even goddamn, you know what I'm saying? Y'all want people to have kids, but if they have a singular complication, they can't do nothing about it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all are letting people die on the table. Like, literally. You can't make this up. Women don't even have the security of going, okay, I want to have a baby, but if there's a complication somewhere between now and then, I would like to be able to be put first as their right. They should be able to be put first. They can't do that. Having kids in 2025 is just like it's a no. It's not fucking happening. We're not doing it. It's over with.
You hear a lot about the declining birth rate and how people are having less kids, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You have to look at why. If people are having less kids because they don't need 9 kids to work on a farm to produce more crops, then that could mean, and probably is, a good thing. That means that people are more efficient in the economy and each person is producing more money. But if birth rates are declining because people see a hopeless future with skyrocketing house costs and environmental disaster, then that's probably not a good thing. But even in that case, in educated societies, people just tend to have less kids. They're less focused on quantity and they're more focused on providing a quality life for each of those kids. There are also just a number of other factors, like people just want to focus on their career. There's a lot more education around contraception. Don't be silly. Wrap your willy. And just generally, women have more choice in their life than just being a mother. So yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint exactly why the birth rate is falling because there are so many factors. But if it falls just a little bit, it's not necessarily the end of the world.
According to the CDC, U.S. birth rates have now fallen to the lowest point in American history, with Gen Z having over 50% fewer kids than the 1950s. But when childcare costs more than rent in all 50 states, while 60% of Americans can't afford a minimal quality of life, it raises a question: how is Gen Z expected to have kids when they're struggling to afford even the most basic costs of living? Well, headlines frame the nation's declining birth rate as a shocking phenomenon driven by individual selfishness, as if genuine care and investment has been given to any emerging generation over the last 40 years. The reality is that this trend has actually been building for over 2 centuries, as economic conditions have continuously redefined the true cost of having children. Throughout early industrialization, children were not viewed as a personal choice, but as an economic necessity tied directly to national power and household survival. In a 1791 report, Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton argued that children, who would otherwise be idle, could serve as a source of cheap labor, helping build a domestic manufacturing base capable of competing with Great Britain. Even in agricultural settings, children predominantly functioned as economic assets, as they provided the necessary physical labor, while also serving as informal childcare for younger siblings. We can see this ideology was also replicated in Europe, with historians studying proto-industrial France, discovering that multiple sources of household income, combined with the fact that children became profitable at an early age, encourage marriage and large families across both towns and rural areas, as industries not only sustain larger populations, but actively incentivize families to have more children as a means of surviving on minimal wages. Even throughout the Gilded Age, with overall birth rates being cut practically in half through rapid urbanization, the underlying incentive for working class families remained unchanged. An analysis of Philadelphia households found that children contributed between 28 and 33% of total income in native-born two-parent families. For Irish and German households, those figures rose as high as 46 and 35%, forcing both parents and children to be largely opposed to child labor reforms, not because they supported exploitation, but because they were financially dependent. However, unlike the working class households who were consistently fighting just to keep their heads above water, middle and upper class families had the luxury to prioritize the long-term outcomes of their children. According to the study, Fertility Decline in the United States, by 1930, women married to men in professional and managerial occupations had 18% fewer children than those married to farmers, as larger families were increasingly viewed as an economic liability, as having fewer children allowed families to afford a better quality of life, often in the form of an improved education, and sometimes even a college education, all in hopes to position them for upward mobility in an increasingly stratified society. Suggesting real birth rate decline did not start with selfishness. It began when children stopped being seen as economic assets. And as we are once again seeing wealth inequality widen dramatically, we're unfortunately beginning to see elements of this dynamic reemerge. Between 2019 and 2023, the Department of Labor reported an 88% increase in overall child labor violations, alongside a 31% rise in children employed in hazardous conditions, predominantly among lower income and migrant households. But for the majority of young people today, they're doing exactly what they were raised on. If you can't afford to have kids, don't have them. One of the most important aspects of being able to not only financially provide for oneself, but for a family, is having a job. According to Revelio Labs, the average new hire was 42 years old in 2025. Revelio chief economist Lisa Simon said years of economic and political uncertainty, along with the push to use artificial intelligence, have led employers to place a higher value on experience and become more risk-adverse in who they are hiring and willing to bet on in this labor market. That so-called risk has resulted in the share of the workforce, age 25 and younger, falling from 15% in 2022 to less than 9% today, with hiring inflows for Gen Z dropping by nearly 50% in just the last 3 years. And while some of you are already commenting that these lazy kids just need to get their hands dirty, well, many already are. The question is whether you prioritize completely changing careers or starting a family without any form of job stability. Now, traditionally, another way to overcome a failing job market was to go to college. But unlike a minimum wage worker in 1989, who could pay an entire year of tuition, fees, and room at board with roughly 24 and a half hours of work a week, a Gen Z student today would need to earn $21.27 an hour to do the same, with nearly 40% of the entire American workforce earning less than $22 an hour. And while Gen Z is on track to become the most educated generation in history, the outcome has been higher unemployment than those without degrees, alongside increasing displacement, whether from the 37% of employers who say they would rather hire AI than a college graduate, or from large-scale H-1B replacement. And when we compare Gen Z paying an average of $526 a month in student loans to the average childcare cost sitting at around $1,100 a month, or a monthly increase of $600 when adjusted for inflation compared to a parent in 1985, we once again run into the same question. Does Gen Z prioritize paying off student loans or starting a family, all without any form of job stability? And while there are certainly those who have managed to find or create stable income, they are still running into rising healthcare costs, historic housing prices, and growing economic uncertainty, all compounded by a dollar that is now worth roughly 86% less than what baby boomers entered adulthood with. So when the median Gen Z income is sitting around $50,000, while it costs roughly $23,000 a year to raise a child, it highlights that while Gen Z selfishness may make for a convenient headline,
you guys might want to sit down for this. You're not going to like the numbers I'm about to give you. So the United States just hit a record low for infant fertility. Record low of all time since we've ever been tracking it. So every woman of childbearing age is giving birth to just under 1.6 babies. Just enough to replace us, okay? The lowest ever. And we know why that is. We just don't have a country that makes it easy for women to have that choice and to not have the stress of worrying about access to health care, finances, and you name it, right? Right. This is true of most other countries in Europe and you name it. Their birth rates are declining, except for one country. One country has a strong growth. Can you guess which country? Israel. 3 babies for every female of childbearing age. And you'd be happy to know how heavily subsidized everything is. When you have a baby, the mother automatically gets a check. And then that baby gets a monthly deposit in the mom's bank account every single month until that child turns 18. And then in addition, that child has a separate account where the government deposits money that gets put aside for investments and so forth. And then, of course, their health care is heavily subsidized and college is heavily subsidized. And it's just wonderful that they have that money, thanks to you and me. When you see those New York City mayor candidates during the Democratic primary all say, where's the first place they would go visit if they were elected? And they all said Israel. And Zohran Mamdani said, I would go right back to New York City because that's who I'm trying to make life affordable for. Yeah, we don't get those things here. We don't get those things here. And what this extreme right regime, per Project 2025, is going to attempt to do to boost up those birth rates is not make it financially affordable and heavily subsidize everything, because we can't. We're not taxing corporations and we're not taxing the wealthy. We need that money. They're hoarding it all. What they're going to do is continue to erode our access to birth control. As a matter of fact, the only thing that Republicans have put forward right now to boost the fertility rates is to make IVF treatment more affordable. That money, though, we are sending to Israel. We don't get it. Like, we're just being used. We're being used by so many different entities, it's not even funny. Vote in the primaries, Democratic primaries. Vote the pro-Israel candidates out. We need to start looking out for ourselves, and we need candidates who are going to help us do that.
Breaking news. Only rich people can afford children. So a new study says if you want 2 kids in America and you want childcare to count as affordable under that cute little 7% of your income benchmark that the federal government has said, well, you need to make over $400,000 a year as a couple. $400,000. Meanwhile, the average 2-person household is pulling in around $145,000 a year. That means that most families would need a 176% pay increase just to be able to breathe. So when folks say, why aren't women having babies? Maybe it's because diapers cost like car notes and daycare feels like a second mortgage. Having kids in this economy is like signing up for a lifetime subscription that you cannot cancel. Quiet is kept. Families need triple the income just to be able to afford children. So let me ask y'all this. Are you paying more than 7% of your income towards childcare? And did the cost of living influence whether or not you have kids at all? Because this conversation, we need to have it.
Americans aren't having enough kids. There's a declining birth rate in America. Riddle me this, bro. Despite having the best jobs my wife and I have ever had, we are told that we get 0% pay for maternity and paternity leave. Meaning, when I have my son, I'm not able to pay my bills or provide for my son. So it's either take time off and be homeless and starving, or go to work and get to know my son on my free time. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm fucked. You know what, bro? I was just personally thinking that I haven't been sending enough of my tax money to foreign lobbies. I haven't been providing enough for other countries. I just need to lock in, bro.
Nothing pisses off American governments more than Generation Z, millennials, and these ones that are coming up now. Stand firm. Have no children, because how the hell are you supposed to raise a child in this economy with these salaries, these rental prices, and all this crap? Do not have any kids, Americans. Stay strong. Hold it down. hold it down, stay strong, because they want you to have worker bees. Don't do it. Do not fall for the trap. Merry Christmas, America.
I was confused about the declining birth rate in the United States. And then I was like, how much is childcare? And they were like, about a studio apartment. And I was like, I got it. You know how many people could barely afford a studio apartment for themselves? People are paying that to have other people watch their kids. And with that being known, politicians are still like, why aren't people having kids? It takes a village, right? So if you have this kid, oftentimes people have a support system, like the grandparents of the kids who would be your parents, who could watch the kid a little bit, maybe also provide food. But a lot of people don't have that support system, so they might have to rely on the government to provide childcare or services to help the child. But if you're saying that, hey, people should be responsible for their own kids 100%, you can't then blame them for making the simple calculation that, hey, I can't afford kids without the support of either my family, friends, or the government. And if those support systems are not available to me, most personally responsible calculus is to not have children. But then if people are making that reasonable decision to not have children based on economic factors, you can't be like, bro, we have women that are 8 months pregnant working at Amazon warehouses because maternity leave in this country is like 7 hours, right? Like, people are giving birth on PTO. If PTO stand for pregnancy time over, yeah.
I just want to say, for the declining birth rates, the government can give everyone money to have kids. It can do whatever initiatives they want, but they could never effectively change this generation's mindset of men, because I went to Disneyland this week and I watched dads ride rides while moms were putting in the work. They were driving the strollers. They were in charge of snacks. They were making sure the kids had sunscreen, had drinks. I was like, oof, that looks like a full-time job. Meanwhile, dad's nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be helping, right? Maybe it was just the day I went. And then we go on the tram, or like the monorail to leave. The dads were all sitting down in the seats while their wives and mother of their children's were standing, being like, oh, I'm so tired, I just wish I could sit. Didn't let them sit. I was like, I just watched these women put in the work all day, and now they can't even get a seat on the monorail from their own husband. Nothing about that sounds enticing to me as a 23-year-old. Then I go to the airport to fly home, and there's a baby on the flight. The mom needs like a second to breathe, gives the baby to the husband, instantly starts crying. The baby does not like the dad at all. The husband gets super, super angry because you have a baby on a flight. And he's like, here, just take it. Throws the child at her. Then she obviously calms him down, has to sit with him the whole flight, is putting in the work the entire flight. Then at the end of the flight, she's like, oh, could you help me with my bags? He goes, I have my own stuff. Oof. Nothing about what I see from real life people who have children makes me want to have kids. There's no amount of money that can make me suffer that way. And this is just my opinion. No hate. Actually, sending love to all the women out there who are doing that. Like, you are superheroes, but it's not for me.
They genuinely thought that they were going to be able to take away everything that we remotely have that's good in America, which is not a lot, by the way. Take away everything that's remotely good in America from us, and that we're still going to lay down and have kids? Is everything all right? I'm seeing all these articles about, like, the declining birth rate. Duh! I didn't need an article to know that. Of course we're not having kids. Childcare is like $1,000 a month. Who can afford that? We can barely afford to take care of ourselves, let alone a child. Formula is $50. Then at that, you don't want to do anything to help us. Why would we bring a child into this world? You're making it harder to get a higher education. Why would we bring a child into this world? You're taking away. What the fuck is RFK trying to take away now? He's trying to take away like pre-screeners, like mammograms, colonoscopies. Like, he's trying to take that away so it won't be covered under your insurance. So by the way, if you have it coming up, you should schedule it now. Why would we have kids? Why would we have kids? Who the fuck is having a kid for the economy? Who the fuck cares? Let it all crash and burn. Let it all burn.
How bad is our birth decline?
It is shockingly bad. So we are now at 1.6 per woman. Our replacement rate is 2.1.
Wow.
It is going to be a shock, a huge shock, when our generation ages and there's no one there to do important services. This is how civilizations die. Like, who takes care of boomers when they're in their 80s and 90s? If you do not have a generation of workers, society starts crumbling. I'm a firm believer that the most important institution in America is the family. The family used to exist to take care of the people who were weakest. Now the state has to take care of them, which is why you see a lot of these people on the street. Oh, well, we went from 2.1 to 1.6. That can't be that bad. I mean, in a couple generations, that means that our population has shrunk by half.
In a couple of generations?
Yeah, but I actually think the bigger problem is cultural and spiritual. Feminism did change the memes and the culture, but no one talks about when you introduce birth control into a society. All of these declines in the industrial world started at the exact same time that the pill was introduced. Something magical changed in the 60s and the 70s. Abortion was made legal in 1973. Other nations followed. There's a reason why the birth rate is so low in these countries.
Are you all following the declining birth rate in Europe? I am. Because I was also looking at the demographic shifts here in the US and Europe and how this is impacting the country. I'm having friends in Europe tell me that there are towns across each of these countries where there are just no people. They're just empty towns because Europeans are not having children. We're seeing this here all over the West where the birth rates are declining. There is a demographic theory called the lowest low birth rate trap, which means if a society dips below the 1.3 threshold in their fertility or their birth rate, they are literally possibly headed towards extinction. And this is an oversimplification, but what it says is that it is very difficult, if not nearly impossible, for them to recover if it gets to this point. South Korea is currently sitting with the lowest fertility rates in the world. You also have Spain, Italy, and Japan. Like, can you imagine? I don't want to see these societies go. Researchers are citing economics, that a lot of young families are saying they cannot afford childcare, education, or housing, so therefore they are not having children at all or reducing it to 1 or 2 children. And over time, this has just become normal. I remember when women had both of my grandmothers, one had 11 children, the other had 10. And back then that was very normal. Not so much anymore across the West. On the contrary, a lot of the mass migration, so they're already dealing with a declining birth rate, but then they've opened their borders to mass migration, illegal migration. And a lot of these are like military age men. I'm not seeing many women and children on these caravans. Very interesting. I'm seeing that Spain is going to be fast tracking over 500,000 migrants to citizenship. People in Spain are saying their governments have sold them out. Many societies across Europe are echoing the same sentiment. It's kind of, it appears to be so, but you do see governments saying, oh, where the birth rate is declining, so we need a workforce, we're going to have to replace them. While some economists are saying not too fast, what you could do is fix the economy and inspire young families to start reproducing and having children again and make conditions optimal for them. But how do you do that if the illegal migrants, somehow the locals are saying they can't afford children? Or you also have another group where feminist groups are pushing women or inspiring women to not have children at all and to stay in the workplace or maybe have children later. That's another social, cultural issue that's happening. But then you're saying to the locals, okay, we're going to fix the economy, or maybe not. But even if they try to fix what's happening, the migrants have come in such rapid numbers that they are outpacing the local population in mass. France and Sweden have made it a little bit better with new policies that encourage families, but it still hasn't returned to the previous numbers. You've got demographics, economics, cultural changes. It's making it extremely difficult for these societies to return to normal birth rates, unless someone steps in with good leadership.
Gen Z and millennials don't want kids. So the birth rate, the fertility rate in the U.S. has been going down for years. It's now at a historic low. And what's really interesting when you get into the Pew Research underneath it is the reason people are not having kids has changed. So put up this graphic here and I'll talk you through it. People over the age of 50 who have not had children, they say, look, it just didn't happen. Basically, I wanted to, but it was bad luck. Young people today say, I'm not even out here trying. I, period, full stop, don't want children. That is a big shift. That is a big change. There's a bunch of reasons. A portion of them cite the cost.
The cost of childcare is bananas.
It's bananas.
School is just, it's
crazy.
Unreal.
A portion of them cite worries about the state of the world, climate change, and then 20% say, I just don't like kids.
And these are all fair reasons. I don't know about not liking kids.
The state of the world and climate change, meaning they don't want to add to our population because of the pressures.
Or they're just worried that the quality of life is getting worse and worse.
The USA is in a fast and ever-increasing decline. And what is being done about it? Absolutely nothing. You know, population growth, births in this country, the birth rate has been going down for the better part of 50 years. Yeah, ever since women started to get into the workplace, you know what's gone on with the birth rate? It's gone down and down and down. And now it's getting to the critical level. And if it keeps going the way it has the last 10 years, it'll be beyond critical. It'll be beyond what the United States can sustain. In other words, Generation Alpha that has been from 2010 to 2024 has only birthed 46 million people, not 60 or 70 like the ones before it, only 46. And if the next 14 years is that bad or worse, the country is in huge economic trouble. But nobody is talking about it. And nobody is doing anything about it. And I'm just wondering why we're allowing the birth rate to rapidly decline year after year after year, and nobody's raising the red flag and going, we have a problem here. And you people that are in Gen Z and your millennials, yeah, you're going to have real problems because there just isn't a population coming up behind you. So you millennials, wait till you see what the next 20, 30 years looks like, because you will have a very difficult time because there just isn't the population. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think the answer is, because we're not talking about it, but it's getting to the critical level, and it's getting there like now. Like and follow for more. Tell me what you think.
I usually mind my business, y'all, but the politicians are panicking. The U.S. birth rate is at an all-time low. Don't nobody want these damn kids. Y'all done made this economy unfucking affordable, and y'all expect us to keep having kids. Nah, fuck y'all. Fuck y'all corporations, you CEOs taking all the goddamn money, not paying livable wages, and then you're crying because we don't want to have kids we gotta struggle with. No, bitch. No, bitch. Nah, hell no. Y'all not finna keep bamboozling us, bro. Yeah, we see ain't no more American dream. This shit some bullshit. The corporation's sucking up all the money up out of society. Why the fuck would we continue to have kids when y'all motherfuckers is selfish? Y'all not even making this a good society. Y'all can't even protect the fucking kids. All these damn kids coming up missing. Y'all talking some, oh my God, the U.S. birth rate is low. Duh. Y'all thought forcing the law to cut back on abortions and do all this other shit was finna make the birth rate go up? Nah. Y'all let the corporations buy up all the houses, buy up all the land, not pay livable wages. And then y'all mad because we can't afford kids. Y'all greedy asses took all the money that we used to have to afford these kids. Daycares. Having to put a kid in daycare is a second mortgage. What are we talking about? Y'all don't make shit affordable for people with kids? Why the fuck will people continue to have kids if y'all not gonna make society livable and convenient to have children? Why the fuck will we keep having kids? Well, I swear our government be so fucking stupid sometimes. Like, it's cause and effect, you dumb motherfuckers.
I have been talking for a long time about our birth rate, not only in this country, but in the world. And by that I mean how many new babies are born per couple. We all remember when China, after Mao, had a one-child policy, and it was very strongly enforced. And what they were afraid of is overpopulation. And 20 years ago, everybody was worried that we were going to overpopulate the world. The real problem today is that we're not populating enough. And in order for the world to sustain itself, and in order for it to be productive and have an adequate labor force and have it over a period of time, over a sustained period of time, we need to have more than 2 births per couple. And this is what's happening today. Our birth rate in the United States is below 2.0. In many countries in Europe, it's like 1.2 or 1.6. At any rate, today we have some issues of fertility, and for anybody that's going through that, that's of course concerning, and a lot of it has to do with where we are in our society and our world today, and hopefully that will be overcome. But it is something that we definitely need to look at as to how we can grow our population to make it sustainable for the world and better for everybody.
Conservatives are mad about the declining birth rate as if they didn't tell us to keep our legs closed. As if they didn't tell us that pregnancy is a consequence of having sex. As if they didn't overturn Roe v. Wade and tell us to keep our legs closed. If you're worried about the declining birth rate, why are you telling women to stop having babies? Like, you can't have it both ways. The declining birth rate is something to celebrate because it is an indicator of bodily autonomy. It is a huge win for bodily autonomy when women and birthing people can choose when and where and how they're going to have children, even if they don't have the protections of Roe v. Wade, even if they are just having to abstain. This is a huge win. Shout out to every single man who has ever said that to a liberal woman. Keep your legs closed when we're talking about an abortion debate. Because I know I got a ton of those comments on my videos.